Today on Capital Analysis, we break down the ongoing Google diversity debate and explain why it's so important to the equity versus equality argument that is shaping policy today. On Thursday, an essay entitled Google's Ideological Echo Chamber was widely circulated internally and is being derided by many as an anti-diversity manifesto. The opinion piece, written by a senior male software engineer, was first reported on by Motherboard, which noted from sources inside Google that, at several points on Friday night, the document was inaccessible because too many people were attempting to view it concurrently. Gizmodo then obtained a full copy on Saturday, complete with an introduction that appears to have been added after its initial distribution. The response has been considerable and factious on Twitter, with some employees going so far as to say they will consider leaving Google if HR does nothing in this case. Saturday, Danielle Brown, Google's new Vice President of Diversity, Integrity, and Governance, responded to the document in a memo to staff obtained by Motherboard. I found that it advances incorrect assumptions about gender. I'm not going to link it here as it's not a viewpoint that I or this company endorses, promotes, or encourages, Brown wrote, before going on to praise Google's diversity efforts. Google has taken a strong stand on this issue by releasing its demographic data and creating a company-wide OKR on diversity and inclusion. Later adding, part of building an open, inclusive environment means fostering a culture in which those with alternative views, including different political views, feel safe sharing their opinions. But that discourse needs to work alongside the principles of equal employment found in our code of conduct, policies, and anti-discrimination laws. This is a pertinent issue for Google and its parent company Alphabet, as in April, The Guardian revealed Google is currently under investigation for discriminating against its female employees. Janet Harold, a Department of Labor regional director, testified in court that, "We found systemic compensation disparities against women pretty much across the entire workforce," and is further quoted by The Guardian as saying, "The government's analysis at this point indicates that discrimination against women at Google is quite extreme, even in this industry." The contentious 10-page manifesto is extensive in its reach, making large assumptions and conclusions that are broad in scope, but can be condensed in the following points. Google's bias towards left-leaning ideologies causes a lack of psychological safety and an echo chamber in which only like-minded political and moral ideas can be shared without being shamed. It claims that gender bias may not be the cause of the gender gap in tech, and argues for several other causes. One of which is that the lack of women in tech and leadership roles is attributable to the biological differences and trait distributions in the population of the two sexes. Given that these are frequently high-paying positions, this could explain the appearance of a wage gap given the argument that men are more drawn to these positions due to biological factors, as opposed to discrimination. And finally, that the implementation of artificial means attempting to achieve equal representation in these fields is discrimination itself, and potentially harmful. Any conclusions from these arguments, for or against, are wide-reaching in their implications for larger social, political, and public entities. The answer may ultimately lie in the often misconstrued and debated moral notions of equity versus equality. Equality, the state of being equal, especially in status, rights, and opportunities, is perhaps best exemplified by the concept that everyone is equal in the eyes of the law. Where equity attempts fairness in the outcome, with the realization that different needs are required by different parties. To better explain, we'll take a hypothetical but plausible real-world example. Imagine the case of a charity that runs two hospitals in different parts of the world, both serving equal-sized populations, but one in Eastern Europe and the other in Sub-Saharan Africa. The charity wants to stock both with a drug that treats sickle cell disease, but does not have the resources to treat everyone, regardless of distribution. Therefore, if a charity distributed the drugs evenly, you would see a similar number of people treated in both cases, but the effect of sickle cell disease would disproportionately impact the population in Sub-Saharan Africa. But is the answer to move all sickle cell resources to the African hospital, leaving everyone in Eastern Europe untreated? This example shows the best approach is probably a combination of equity and equality. But the balance to be struck is a contentious issue that society is currently addressing in arguments like the one now taking place around Google.